Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very happy that you could join us for this amazing discussion about exosomes, a topic that is very highly discussed in the beauty industry. And we are really excited to have the experts on exosomes from JuveXO here with us today to talk more about this and really share the education behind the technology and what are exosomes, where can you find them, where can you get them. So these are really the experts that you want to be talking about exosomes. So I'm really happy to introduce with us today, we have Chief Scientific Officer Rafael Gonzalez, PhD. We have President and Founder Brian Pla, and we also have Dr. Charles Pereyra, who is the founder and CEO of Springs Rejuvenation. Um, each of these experts are a wealth of knowledge on the topic of exosomes, and we'll be sharing some groundbreaking research that just came out, a few days ago. They might even mention a new bill that was just passed that is very hot in conversation between the three of them as well. And we also have great partnership news as well as the first look at an actual image of the exosome, which is very exciting. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. This Zoom is being recorded just so that you can have it for your records. I'm happy to share it with everyone so that you have this information to take with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box that's enabled in the chat here, and we will get to your question, whether it is a fit in the current conversation, or we will also have a 10-minute Q&A session at the very end as well. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Chief Scientific Officer Rafael Gonzalez, who will kick us off with a quick introduction about himself and exosomes.
Pleasure to meet everybody. Rafael Gonzalez here. My PhD is out of the University of California, Irvine. I was part of the group that did the first clinical studies or studies actually with stem cells in the context of spinal cord injury, which was at the Christopher Reeve Paralysis Foundation. And then from there embarked on understanding and studying cells in the private sector, different types of cells, where in about 2009, we started studying all these different stem cell types and found the cell that we actually use now that are in clinical studies here in the United States at the FDA, actually at the VA administration at University of Florida, now soon one to start in Stanford in various different indications. We're actually going on into a phase 2/3 clinical study for what's called idiopathic inflammatory myositis. It's a very, very large scale study where we were given both orphan and fast track status for this. And what we're going to talk about is essentially these exosomes and a lot more details on why exosomes are important, number one. Two, how they work. Number three, the really, really important aspect that a lot of people don't understand is that not all exosomes are created equal. They're not all the same. And ultimately, it boils down to quite a few different things. I'll pass this over to, are we going to introduce Brian?
Yeah, so we can go ahead and introduce Brian. We can give a quick introduction to everyone here before we jump into the meat of the topics.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Pla. I'm the founder and president of Congela Biocosmetics, which is the product that distributes JuveXO. My path into this industry is actually not one. I'm not a medical professional or a scientist. I actually came into this field as a practitioner, as a patient who really benefited from cellular therapy. So in 2012, Dr. Gonzalez, who's a dear friend and has become my mentor in this business, I wouldn't be here without him. He was looking for a guinea pig in terms of a stem cell study that he was performing on a bunch of MMA. A group of MMA fighters to see the aspects or the benefits of recovery, as well as the benefits of its effects on blood, right, for high performance athletes. So I had no idea what a stem cell was at the moment, but I trusted him enough to lend myself to become a guinea pig in the study. After that treatment, I felt really I just felt like it was something that was different in terms of my energy, my immune system benefits. I became very intrigued in what stem cells were in cellular therapy overall. And as I continued to move forward, probably about a year and a half later, I had asked him, "Hey, does this stem cell stuff work on my knee?" And he goes, "Absolutely, it's really good for the knee." And I injected my knee, and subsequently 4 months after that, I was playing basketball again with a bunch of gentleman way younger than me, and I said, "Hey, this is really something that I want to bring to other people, right? So I want to bring regenerative therapies to other people." And then that led me to initially found my precision and regenerative medicine company called Gentera in Miami in 2017, initially on the benefits of cellular therapy. But very quick, as Dr. Gonzalez and his team continue to evolve in the science, and this is an important point we're going to touch on later regarding exosomes, is that that they're not all created equal, and you really have to understand the source of the exosomes, right? And we'll go into that. But he was creating this product, which he was calling it liquid gold in the lab. And after seeing, kind of understanding more about what this product was, and he explained to me how rich this product was in hyaluronic acid, collagen, I said, "Hey, those are all things that I want to use that I would want to use for a cosmetic therapy." So from there, I said, "Go, how much of this product do you have?" And he's like, "Well, we have a few thousand vials." And I said, "I'll take them all." And he's like, "What do you mean you'll take them all?" I go, "I'll buy them all. I have no idea if I could sell these or, if I could get enough, but I trust enough in the science and in what you've done that I want to try this out with, a small group of plastic surgeons and derms that I know, and let's get to market." And that's actually how I initially met Dr. Pereyra. And we started selling, and this was 2019. 6 months later, COVID came along. And although, yes, many medical practices were shut down due to that, we still had an immense success selling this with almost no marketing and just word of mouth, practitioner to practitioner. And that's kind of how JuveXO and our exosome product was launched. We've been very keen on its cosmetic benefits and just growing organically as time has passed. And so in doing this assessment, I said, well, we really have to get this product. We have to expand our product line and be able to offer other products. And he had taken this formula and had started to continue to work on it and develop one for hair. So we noticed both Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Pereyra, and myself have way more hair than we did if you would have met us a few years ago. And coincidentally, we're all beneficiaries of using our exosomes in combination with the regenerative hair therapies, which is, pretty amazing. We'll get into that product as well. But I think there's no bigger testament to the efficacy of something than when you try it on yourself and you see the effects. So I'm just extremely passionate. I love how this space has begun to grow and how we've really been a pioneer. And while most people have jumped into exosomes because it's been sexy and it's been what the cosmetic world has wanted, we evolved into the space. And I really think that's why we're setting ourselves apart as a leader. So with that, that's a little bit about me and how we got here. And I will then now introduce Dr. Charles Pereyra, a colleague, friend, and has built an amazingly successful practice with Springs Rejuvenation. So, Dr. Pereyra.
What's up, everyone? Happy to be here. Thank you for the introduction, Brian. As everyone said, I'm Dr. Charles. I'm the founder and CEO of Springs Rejuvenation. I believe we're the largest, if not one of the largest, stem cell and exosome companies in the country. We have locations all the way from LA to New York, and I've studied this for a long time, about 17 years of medical education and research. I've been a Cornell guy through and through, did most of my medical training as an MD at New York Presbyterian. And have had Springs Rejuvenation for about 6 years now. Very similar trajectory, almost completely organic up until 18 to 24 months ago, because these things work. And during this time of my education, I have toured countless labs and been approached by pretty much every stem cell and exosome company you can imagine, being as large as we are. And so I had a chance to tour the facilities with Dr. Gonzalez and with Brian, and I must say that after working in a hard clinical science lab over at Cornell, next to a Nobel laureate for my undergraduate, and then seeing the standards and ethics that they have in their labs, I was very, very pleased to try out their product. And I've tried a ton of their products. And since then, I've probably treated, just thousands alone last year, just last year and had incredible results. I was almost completely bald before embarking on my own stem cell hair transplant. And so I believe in it. I've treated a ton of UFC athletes, A-list celebrities, a lot of them, all of them with this product actually. And I've seen incredible results from aesthetic and otherwise. I'm personally a specialist in hair and IV wellness therapies with this currently, but I can testify to its amazing potential after the thousands of patients we've treated. And so I'm really grateful for the quality of these exosomes and the quality of the lab, which you just quite frankly don't see everywhere.
Thank you so much. And we're going to be talking more about Springs Rejuvenation and the partnership with JuveXO in a little bit. To kick us off with, this conversation about exosomes, we have a really great video from JuveXO team that, is a 2-minute, I feel like really great comprehensive look at, what the exosomes are and what's behind this cutting edge technology. So we'll go ahead and play that for everyone here. And then Dr. Gonzalez can explain more. Oh, and we don't have any sound, so that's okay. We have the experts with us today while we troubleshoot that. But we can go back to our original slide that has actually an image. There we go.
And our product JuveXO is actually.
We can all hear this?
Yes, we are good.
Okay.
And our product JuveXO is actually derived from the umbilical cord lining stem cells, where we spend years researching this and finding ways to help skin look phenomenal. So we've actually penetrated now the medical aesthetic space, where this is sold directly to dermatologists, sold directly to estheticians. And why is it used? It's actually used, believe it or not, following microneedling radio frequency, used following CO2 fracture laser, because when people get these things done, they have a significant downtime. They look really bad. We reduce that downtime significantly, and we improve its appearance with this product. A simple product that's thawed, sprayed on, atomized on is the way we use it, and it dries immediately. Individuals that are normally out following CO2 fracture laser chemical peel, they're normally out 7 to 10 days. Not when they use JuveXO. They're outside in about 2 days.
So how many want to go ahead and sign up for that service? I know I do. So Dr. Gonzalez, maybe you can share a little bit more. Take us to, exosomes 101. What is an exosome? Why is it so popular in skincare right now? And why should the consumer go into their, dermatology practice and ask for a service using JuveXO exosomes?
So essentially, the cell, which is basically a unit of life, and it's what's communicated every single day. The body wants to be in homeostasis all the time. Every single cell, this is what people don't understand, in the body communicates with the other cell in the body. There's long distance communication, there's short distance communication. And what we talk about here is how is that communication transpired, especially in the context of long distance. So if you look at the simple thing of hormone, how can the pituitary release or stimulate the release of testosterone in a male and get all the way down, that signal get all the way down to the testes? This is long distance communication, where the cell, in the context of a good stem cell, is about 15, 12 microns in size. And these communication, basically vesicles, are 1/1000th of that size, where they range anywhere from 0 nanometers all the way up to about 100 nanometers. But the neat thing about them is these bioactively loaded molecules basically have also, similar to a cell membrane, they have a lipid double bilayer. And that is actually designed so that the contents of it, whether it be a protein, whether it be another lipid, believe it or not, whether it be a receptor, whether it be a protein that does direct function, direct interaction with another cell, it can now bind to another cell. Now, the neat thing is that it's an actual endosome, so the machinery of a cell produces the necessary component, necessary protein, necessary messenger RNA or microRNA, and then it basically expels it out with this protective lipid bilayer. Now, the exosome is only as good as the cell that it came from. So if you think of this in an older individual that is unhealthy, an exosome that's going to communicate with one cell to another cell or be released from one cell, it's probably not going to be healthy. Cancer cells release exosomes to produce more cancer. And this is actually very well known already. It's because every single cell in the body does so. Now, the exosome itself, there's various different ways to basically show that it is an exosome. And when we look at the science behind it, a lot of people just say they have exosomes because it's a nanoparticle, and you can register this with an actual nanoparticulate machine. But the problem with our field and me being a scientist, it's actually a little bit on the plague side with that, where individuals will say, I have 100 billion exosomes, I have 300 billion exosomes, whatever it may be. But this is done through a nanoparticle counter. The nanoparticle counter, when we've sent samples of saline, just samples of saline or any form of solution, it will register a billion particles. Now, is that an exosome? It's not an exosome. That's one. Two, the important aspect of it is when you register this, you have to register this based on specific criteria that is from the International Society for Extracellular Vesicles. That requires that you measure this using this particular machine, but also you have to show other methods that it's actually there. So there's three particular proteins on the outside of these vesicles that you can actually measure. There's also imaging, as you can see here, true proof, which is done through electron microscopy, that these are all different exosomes. These are exosomes that are in our product. And lastly, and the most important aspect of all of it is what are the contents of it? Because think of this, if I gave you an exosome from a heart cell, what are the possibilities of the benefits going to do for anything in the context of a topical? Probably nothing. What type of exosomes are you producing? We embarked on in 2014, working with the Cleveland Clinic and understanding topically what can we use. We took these umbilical cord lining stem cells, and these cells are on a plate. And what we did was spend a significant amount of time studying how do we coerce, because this is a stem cell, how do we coerce it to secrete out the important aspects of skin, which is hyaluronic acid, which is the second most abundant analyte that we have in our body. And when you think of skin, it's probably one of the key things that you want to use. And it should be in the context of high molecular weight, which is what we have in our product. And secondarily and serendipitously to that, which is what happens a lot of time in science, we found that the product also secretes out collagen 1 and collagen 3. Now, if you look back to ontogeny, so development of the body when you're a newborn, the umbilical cord itself is really high in actually hyaluronic acid, but there's some collagen in there too. But how do you force those cells to produce this? And that's where our technology comes in. That's where we have patents on this. And that's what we've actually done with this product. So thinking of that, plus as we studied this, finding other super important aspects of how it works on skin. So many times skin issues deal directly with microbes. Blemishes are 90-something% of the time a microbial issue, whether it be fungal, whether it be bacterial, whatever it may be. Our product is really high in beta defenses. If you have a chance, look up beta defenses and determine you actually see what they are. These are strong antimicrobials. Not only though that, those that are us that are in the peptide sector that know peptides, the peptide LL37. It's a strong antimicrobial also that's actually secreted out. But besides that, there's factors in there that help with healing, inflammation, and basically regeneration. The keys and maintaining extracellular matrix, which we talked about, the hyaluronic acid, the collagen 1,3. Those are the keys to skincare. This particular product was designed exactly for that.
And I think I mean, Dr. Gonzalez really touched on some very important points. So let me go back to the HA part, right? Because everybody and their next door neighbor is pitching HA of some sort in their cosmetic product. There are different grades of HA or hyaluronic acid, right? There's low molecular weight all the way up to high molecular weight. Our product has high molecular weight, and Dr. Gonzalez could go into more of the science as to why that is so important in the difference. And it's naturally occurring. The fact that it's naturally occurring does not means that it was not added to the product. It was we coerce a cell to secrete not only the exosomes but the HA, the collagen, etc. So that's a very important point because high molecular weight is really HA is really what you want in this type of product. So think of so many people are harping on the exosomes, how many billions or trillions, or we just end the argument by saying we have infinity minus one, right? Now that we've addressed that, now let's move on to what's important, right? It's not you showing up as the exosome by yourself to the party. It's who are the friends that you showed up to the party with. And we are cosmetic superheroes. We have basically conditioned our product to secrete the ideal ingredients to optimize this product for cosmetic use. And I think that we're starting to change the landscape and the narrative to what is important, not just that their exosomes are present, but who they are present with.
Yeah, I think exosomes are incredibly interesting, not just because they're so tiny. And I believe these are the first pictures I've ever seen of a real exosome. And I can tell you, as someone who's a consumer, as a practitioner and has clinics, everyone will tell you, I have 1 trillion exosomes. I have 2 trillion exosomes. And really, any particle can be small enough to be 100 to 200 nanometers, right? And so having the proof under electron microscopy, which is the most magnification we can do currently with our technology, is really impactful. But also knowing, what's in the exosome and where it comes from is also really impactful. MSCs being called the golden cell lines secrete very powerful exosomes in and of themselves. And then once you condition them, like Dr. Gonzalez and Brian have done, to produce the factors that you want specifically for cosmetics, it just makes it more powerful, right? So I look at it this way. Every single cell in your body does cell communication via some mechanism, usually with an EV or exosome. But that doesn't mean that's going to give you the contents that you need inside that exosome. The particular cell line usually is a mesenchymal cell line, and then being able to agitate it further or condition it further to make what you want is just incredibly impactful. And I can tell you, I've seen even old scars in some of my patients, which I wasn't intending to improve. I totally consented them saying, hey, I don't expect this scar to get much better. And it would significantly lighten. And I think that's probably because of the conditioning inside the exosomes, plus the power of mesenchymal exosomes.
Yeah, it's what we consistently see too. And a lot of the things that too also that that people worry about, well, wait a second, I'm using a human product. How about genetics? All that. That's another differentiator with hers. Granted, we have our cells in clinical studies. We've tested the cells that we actually use through full genetics, meaning we look for genetic aberrations. We will grow the cells and continually grow the cells on these petri dishes, on dishes, and we will look at what's called karyotypes to make sure that there's no genetic issues, no genetic deficiencies. Believe it or not, out of over 30 cords that we tested, we only have 3 that we use. It's because we've seen many of them with aberrations, and then we would go back and tell the parents, hey, baby, and either one of the 2 of the parents have to test and make sure that something's not right there. And they were always carriers. Always they were carriers, whether it be Turner syndrome or some other aberration that transpires and happens with adulthood. And they now know at least that they have to basically watch the baby that they have, and they have to basically make sure that they have them on some form of a therapy as they develop. So these are things that are commonly, people take for granted, don't understand. There's many products out there. I mean, I hear people taking amniotic fluid, just taking donations from various different babies. Every single person that's on this call right now is completely different. We all have our different issues, our different genetics, our different anything. If you go into using like amniotic fluid, I mean, it's sort of crazy using that period because 55% of that is actually antibodies. You risk basically putting somebody else's antibodies on your face topically or however you're actually using this, and you risk causing issues. Same exact thing of when you take just straight umbilical cord. A lot of companies just grind the stuff up, produce it, and they say, well, this is ground up tissue, that there's some exosomes in there. They'll give it to you. Remember, the donors are not qualified with their cells on the genetic aspects is one. Two, you really don't know what's in there because there's so much variance, and we've tested this internally from one cord to another cord to another cord. These are really, really important aspects that we've actually completely solved, that we completely look at. Where we look at, we large scale manufacture this in liter format, and we look at lot to lot to lot consistency on the productions of this to make sure that we have the same exact product and we have same exact consistency so we can actually give you guys great results in the context of of skin.
And I can tell you, we've treated thousands and thousands of patients with this, and over again, the most common question is, okay, we trust you. We know you're a good clinic. We know you're a good doctor. You've seen a lot of people that I know. Is this safe? And over again, I have to explain to them, we've seen zero major side effects across any of our centers across the country. And the reason why I think that is because there is such rigorous testing, like you said, from lot to lot or vat to vat, doing the genomic screening as well as the sterility and quality assurance testing.
Yeah. I mean, this all sounds amazing. There's obviously so much technology that goes into this. And this image here, if Dr. Gonzalez or Brian, if you wanted to expand on this a little bit more, is, a product of a recent article that JuveXO has published, showing the first image of the exosomes. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's so pivotal? And how, this kind of image proof sets JuveXO's exosomes apart from others that might be competitive?
Yeah, the problem is that this image tells you truly, a lot of people say, like Dr. Pereyra said, a lot of people will tell you, I have X amount of exosomes. And nobody will show you an image, especially in the context of the cosmetic space, because this costs money to do this. And this truly confirms that you have an exosome. Nobody does this. Nobody digs deeper in what I talked about, the proteins on the outside of it, which is something that we do. What is the quantity of those proteins on the outside of it, which is what we do. What else is in the product, which is what we do. We want to make sure that we have produced something that is going to be beneficial. It has to be something that's beneficial, and it has to be something that's real, that's tangible, that can make a change in somebody's skin and in somebody's life.
Awesome. So if I was a consumer, let's say, I may have some different skin or hair issues with every kind of treatment that's on the market right now. There's laser, there's microneedling, there's everything else. And back to what Brian was saying about how, exosomes are, not alone, they play with others at the party. What consumer would be the best fit for, using something with exosomes, or what should I be asking for when I'm going in for a service?
Well, I'm happy to
Dr.
field this.
Perry, you know that Dr. Perry, no, he knows that better than I do because he sees the thousands
Who
of
wants to take
patients.
that one?
Yeah,
He can take that one.
I'm happy to field this. Aside from, is this safe and will it work, which are predominantly the number one and two questions that we always get, is how long will it take for me to see results? And if I see results, how am I actually getting these results? Like, what is the true mechanism? And I could tell you, after reading a ton of papers, which I'm sure Dr. Gonzalez has read more papers than I have on the topic, but I've been studying this for 17 years, and I think the mechanism of how this is really working is twofold. It's what comes along with the exosomes, what comes to the party, so the growth factors, the collagens, even the elastins, even the naturally producing VEGF, but also the contents inside the package. I explain it to my patients, so look at this exosome as an envelope with instructions in it, and it will deliver it to your cell and give that cell instructions on what it needs to do. For example, in producing new proteins that form strict collagen in your face to cause tightness and cause elasticity to look better and cause more vibrance. And based on the research, I feel pretty confident on saying this is the fact. And based on treating a number of patients, I think this is the reason why we're seeing results.
Yeah, another interesting point that actually Brian was at this conference with us many years back. We went to the World Aesthetic Conference. In that conference was a device company, one of the largest in the world, that they do these live demos right there on the spot. And we asked, can we piggyback on one of your demos? Because when they'll do a CO2 fracture laser, you're essentially burning and removing a layer of skin when you do this. You will look like a burnt mess for a long time, easily about a week where you can't go out, where you have to be really cautious with sun. And we said, can we piggyback on this with you? They said, yeah, sure. And what we would like to see is if this person can return tomorrow so we can take a look at them. And they said, that's not likely because people don't return the following day because they look so bad and it's the appearance is not, and they have to be cautious with the sun. And I said, no, I think we've done this before. And we would ask that they would come back so we can take a look at them and you guys can assess them too. And it's night and day. I mean, you can barely tell following getting a procedure if you apply this the right way and you use these devices that we actually have, these atomizing devices, and spray it on. It's like you're spray painting onto somebody. and it forms a fine mist that dries into the skin. The healing response, and not only the healing response, the appearance that you get after is night and day to somebody that just goes home and doesn't do any post care on this.
And that's with a CO2 laser, which is probably one of the strongest lasers that you can use. I mean, I've seen patients who get deep microneedling. We used to do deep microneedling alone. And one of the same patients we had come in who was used to the redness and the swelling, she stayed in her office for an IV after, so she about an hour and a half, 2 hours. The redness was almost gone by the time she left the office. And by the next day, she sent me a picture and there was no redness. And that's when I was like, oh, wow, something's happening here. Something's a little bit different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and listen, and I have, so I told you I have a medical practice as well. We use a lot of JuveXO in different indications. So we did a study not too long ago with one of our plastic surgeons where we had, 7 patients were treated with a CO2 laser, right? So 5 were not given JuveXO and 2 were, me being one of them. And so we did the laser, did the procedure, and I get home, probably about an hour after the procedure. And that night I have a black tie event with my wife for a work function. She's like, why out of all days would you pick today to do an ablative laser treatment and come home looking like, so here I am. I mean, I have faith in my product, but I'm here starting to pray now that this thing works by 7 o'clock. I get into my tuxedo and this product. Sure enough, come 7 o'clock, I was significantly better to the point where you couldn't even really tell I had anything done other than maybe had gotten a little bit of sun. And I was like, wow, this is impressive. And I think it begs itself to really understanding, what's in the product. And, we were just at a conference in Mexico and Dr. Gonzalez asked everyone there, and it's like, hey, who's using exosomes in their practice? And a lot of people raised their hands, which is great because that means that it's continuing to have penetration into the market. But then he asked the next question, very key question, which is, how many of you know what are in your exosomes? Nobody raised their hands. And if I threw you each a pack of Doritos, the first thing you're going to do now is go down and see if it has red dye 40, red dye 3, and what's in it, and you're probably not going to eat it. And that's a snack. So now you mean to tell me you're going to put something on your face that could have an outcome on your looks and your overall well-being, and you are not going to understand what are the ingredients and where was this made? I thought it was mind-boggling. So I really think it's important that the practitioners start to understand what's important, and they in turn educate the patients not only to ask for this but to know what they're getting.
We talked about this just before the call where, a lot of doctors are kind of being fooled by savvy marketers and salesmen in the space now. And they're like, hey, buy my exosomes, hey, buy this. And a lot of them are just intermediaries between a lab that just started up. And it's really important for the clinicians to understand so that the patients can understand what they're getting is not only effective, but also safe. And I too, like everyone else, has fallen victim to many internet marketing campaigns and schemes, and some of them are quite attractive. But when it comes to medicine, patients place a lot of trust in physicians and will sometimes not even ask. And so it's up to the physicians and the clinicians to really know exactly what they're putting in their patients and what they're selling.
Yeah. I'd actually love to, this is a great segue. We have an awesome video as well from the JuveXO team that shows, a client in the office getting this experience and this treatment. So I think this will help to really bring this to life visually for everyone.
My main concern was like wrinkles, texture. I have acne scars from when I was a kid still that I'm still battling with. Large pores. I got the works. In your typical mid-30s, and I'm really excited to see the results. Anybody that feels like they have dryness in the skin, skin irregularities, acne scars, dryness, fine lines, they all benefit from the exosomes and the microneedling machine. The great thing about this machine is that it's dispersing it even across the skin, so it's allowing the pores to absorb that to a greater extent. It's very easy, very convenient. The patient's getting the full amount of product needed, and we're dispersing it all over the skin. Really good, actually. I didn't feel any pain. I for sure thought my face was going to be a tomato afterwards, bright red, and I just looked at my phone and it's barely red, which is insane for me. That was definitely something I almost didn't believe myself. So pretty excited to see that I can go to work now.
I think that really just helps to put that all into perspective and see really the effect of JuveXO after a treatment, in case the team would like to expand on any of that, what we just saw, or give any background to the Exo spray that was sprayed on after the treatment.
Yeah, the Exo spray was thought out because people were just taking this and dabbing this on with the syringe, using their hands, using gloves, whether it be latex. A lot of people have allergies to latex. I'm actually one that has allergies to latex. So then they'll go nitrile gloves. Even nitrile gloves will disrupt. You can have stuff on there, bacteria on there. Where the face, even when you clean the face, there's always some form of bacteria, some form of fungus, anything on the face. You have to wash it very rigorously to make sure you get rid of everything. But this is where the antimicrobials come into play with us, especially in the context of almost everybody has some form of a blemish or something on the skin. You want the skin to look clear, and that's the concept behind this product. That's the concept behind having an antimicrobial in there that can help with those blemishes, and it does it really well. It's just important to have that in this product.
I could speak on it from also a hair transplant as well. So we do both the micro FUEs, which are mini surgical procedures, as well as just topical for hair. And what we've seen was decreased downtimes and decreased swelling when we did our microinvasive procedures. And one of the more recent cases we had is, you always tell patients when you do a hair transplant, wait 6 to 8 months to see results. In less than 6 months, this patient had a full head of hair, and I was shocked to see it. And so I think not only is it helping with downtime and healing, but it's propagating the results of other procedures like CO2 fractional lasers or microneedling, or an Morpheus even maybe, or any of the other machines out there as well.
That's actually a perfect segue, Dr. Pereyra, to talk about what's upcoming for JuveXO this year. There's a lot of great new innovation, and thank you so much for being here. We can start with this official partnership between JuveXO and Springs Rejuvenation. So I know you have multiple locations, and this is an exclusive partnership. So if you could tell everyone what this partnership looks like, and everyone on this call, all three of these experts are readily available for any quotes, interviews, anything you might need. Of course, we have Dr. Pereyra here as like the hair and regenerative expert here. So please feel free to ping us if you would like to hear more about what he's going to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm incredibly excited for this partnership with JuveXO. Like I've said, I have a lot of hard science research, like in the lab with a pipette, writing papers, all that stuff, and seeing a lab that has such high standards and quality is literally the only reason I'm doing an exclusivity deal with them. There's no shortage of stem cell companies. They're popping up like 7-Elevens now. They're pretty much everywhere. And everyone has a claim as to why their product is better than the next. Even one of my friends who I've known
Coming
for a
soon
long
to CVS.
It's just like a CVS, yeah. Maybe soon they'll be in CVSs. You never know. But I must say, it's the quality of the product and the character of Brian and Dr. Gonzalez that really attracted me to want to do this exclusivity partnership. I know our position in the market. I'm not sure every company. We're definitely among the largest stem cell companies in the country, if not the largest, and we're only going to expand. And so what I put on my patients, who are from A-list celebrities to championship athletes, Olympians, to what I put in my own body, because I use this product myself, and for Alyssa, who's on the call, and most of my staff, I take great pride in having a product that I know is going to work and is going to work for a multitude of modalities. So I'm really excited for this partnership, and feel very privileged to work alongside Dr. Gonzalez and Brian.
And just to piggyback up, and first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Pereyra. I know we've known each other for a while, but for someone like he said that is really at the pinnacle in the space, and has had so much success, there's no shortage of companies that are trying to get Dr. Pereyra's business and coming to him with all sorts of pitches of products and opportunities. So the fact that he could filter that noise, really focus on the science and prioritize that for his patients, and where it's, hey, safety first and efficacy, and we check both bills. It's really a testament to our product, and I'm very proud of that. And I think and there's another very good friend of mine in the space who's become very, very large as well. Gary Brecka has had us on his podcast, speaking about our science and how he uses our JuveXO exclusively as well. And again, that's just someone else who's on another platform and could use anything and everything in the market. So I really appreciate that Dr. Hurd, guys like Gary are highlighting the efficacy and the power and the science that we've done and the investment we've taken over time. Dr. Pereyra touched on hair, which we are, working with, another pioneer, probably another top hair guy in the industry. He's just dedicated to hair. He doesn't do any of the other stuff that Dr. Pereyra does. But Dr. Alan Bauman, and we did a 30-patient study with him using a device called TED, which is an acronym for, I think it's trans-electrophoresis device, which basically helps, it's a sonophoresis to help drive the exosomes through the scalp, kind of opens that top layer of the scalp to help the product penetrate. And in the study, I mean, we're getting the final report now, but all patients had some sort of seizing of shedding on their hair, and most started regrowing hair. Now, we will expand the protocol to include additional treatments, but from that first treatment, with us not knowing what we were going to get, it was extremely enlightening. And I think that also expands on, hey, we didn't just take the same exosome product we have for aesthetics and hey, let's throw this on hair. Dr. Gonzalez meticulously with his team found, two additional growth factors that are primarily targeting hair growth in the follicle, and found the right dose to formulate them, to add that to the product, to be able to devise our JuveXO H or for hair. And that's been a product that's really taken off as well. So very exciting. And then on the heels of that, we're also launching our aesthetics line, which for several years since we first launched, we had our professional line, which is really a highly concentrated, very potent. But as we started to see that there was way more demand and the budgets of not every clinic is at the same level, we're saying, listen, and we have the science to back this, right? Where even at a 5% concentration of JuveXO, we're seeing improvements in skin texture. We came out with a less concentrated version, which we're calling it our JuveXO skin line. And while we haven't officially launched it, we did a soft launch already. The interest is extremely high, and practitioners are wanting, to try that. So it closes out the portfolio where we really have something to offer for all budgets, from the med spas all the way up to to the higher end medical practice, plastic surgery centers, etc. So I'm very happy that our science team, our R&D team, has continued to push the innovation and lead in that fashion to expand our product line.
Yeah, everyone.
And that particular product was developed following studies that we actually did to assure. The neat thing that we saw was in skin fibroblasts of those that are 26 years of age or those that are 52 years of age, we would apply, like Brian just said, either 5% or 20% of the product. So in the context of cosmetics, everybody talks about less is more. That's what we wanted to look at. And what we found that without the product, it would not stimulate hyaluronic acid, or at least detectable amounts of hyaluronic acid. It would not stimulate detectable amounts of collagen, and it wouldn't stimulate detectable amounts of elastin. When we added just 5% or 20%, which actually increased it a little bit, but not significantly more, so 5% was fine, you would see that it would stimulate your own cells to secrete out hyaluronic acid, collagen, and elastin. That is important because now you're having a product that forces the stimulation of, healthy skin, which is what you want.
Yes, and everyone here actually is getting an exclusive sneak peek at this. This is the first that we have spoken about this. This is launching in a few weeks' time, so stay tuned for more information here. And at this point, I would love to open up the floor for anyone if they have any questions. We do have one from the chat box, so I will open that up to the team. So Jennifer had a question about the mister, the exo spray, wondering what kind of micro mist it is, and if it were applied topically, what are the results of the actives penetrating, kind of going more into the effects of the spray.
I mean, it's a simple atomizer, and that's what you want to force a fine mist. So it makes it into smaller amounts that'll fine mist and penetrate into the skin deeper. The neat thing, something that we didn't talk about, is we embarked on a study with the University of Miami, a skin study on pigs. And when they applied it similarly, without, because we actually did just applying it alone, because we wanted to see what is the effect of just applying it alone. And when they applied it following microneedling, when they applied it following radio frequency, they saw exactly what we're describing to you. On its own, it would stimulate collagen production. On its own, it was reducing bacterial counts. In the context of that type of a skin study, you look at what's called colony forming units. So you'll look at bacterial forming units that form of colonies of bacteria, and it reduced it significantly without adding on the microneedling or the radio frequency. Similarly with the collagen, similarly as an anti-inflammatory, we saw the effect where just that sprayer alone does something. We have, of course, a lot more investigating to actually look at, but it does penetrate the skin for sure.
Just to follow up, but I mean, like, if you just applied that topically, would it do the same thing? Have you done any comparisons of the mist versus a topical application?
So that's an interesting question. I mean, a topical application would just be to dab it on. And the reason why we use the mister is basically you would take a syringe and just dab it on and it'll drip. Somehow you have to find a way. But when you use the mister, you get a clear angle and you can angle it however you want, that mister on to make it a little bit more directed or a little bit wider. And you get sort of like a painting type of approach. The other neat thing is when we go to the less is more, it allows you to use less. Because when you put it in a syringe and you start dabbing it and pushing it through that way, you'll get bigger globs, bigger drops that'll actually drip down. When you go through this, it gives you more applications. So a lot of
So it
times
has
we
nothing to do
recommend
with the size that the micromist makes the active ingredients.
yeah, well, yes, because at the same time, when it basically mits it a lot easier and it'll dry a lot quicker versus putting a big dab of it on. It's similar to when you get a fine mist of when you're outside and really, really hot and you walk around and you get a fine mist of something versus getting a splash of water on you, you're going to be refreshed a lot more because it's actually going to penetrate in. That's what makes a difference on it.
Does that help?
It's a better device to go, and
Sort of.
it's a really, we didn't even talk about that.
I mean,
It's
the
a
reason I'm
really
asking is because
inexpensive
there's all
device.
this research on high speed micromisting and how it makes active ingredients penetrate better. So I was wondering if that's why you guys chose to do the mist versus the topical, but it sounds like you're saying it would work topically, it just wouldn't be as easy for the provider to apply it.
Correct. Yes, that's one.
Okay.
And then two, I don't think it would penetrate as well too, because
Oh,
when
okay.
you make
So
this,
that's what I was getting at. Okay.
yeah, I don't think it would penetrate as well because you're dabbing something down and it's not going to go to where it wants to go. It's too much fluid to penetrate the skin at one time.
Yeah, I
That's why
agree.
you would want to atomize it.
I've done it both ways before the atomizer was out and after, and our nurses, myself, and the patients greatly prefer using the atomizer.
And it's inexpensive. I don't know. Brian could tell you what it's $100, $120. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, about $125.
Yeah,
And,
I'm sure
and
we can also connect and give you more information, more details. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to definitely connect you with the team about that. But thank you so much for the question. And you opened it up because we have a lot more in the chat now. So actually a question for Dr. Pereyra. What procedure would you recommend to someone who is trying exosomes for the first time in your office? Is there one general service that everyone could benefit from regardless of their skin concern?
Oh, well, if you're asking me what I like and what I do, I personally like doing intravenous exosomes. I believe they're the best for the wellness of the entire body. I've done some internal data on this to show some clear benefits. But for the skin in general, if you're just asking for what general skin procedure would I do, creating microchannels with any radio frequency microneedling device and then atomizing this on for the skin is a fantastic way to help spread exosomes throughout the surface of the body. Now you have to remember, when we hit about the age of 20 to 25, the exosomes drop, and they don't just drop, steadily. They kind of fall off an S curve. And so being able to apply this to your skin, and I even say do it before you notice any blemishes and fine lines and wrinkles, because it's like a preventative thing. Preventative Botox has become a term. I think soon enough, preventative exosomes will become a term to keep the collagen you have, rather than just trying to grow a bunch after your collagen that you've had naturally kind of went away. So that's the long-winded way of me saying
Stop it! Stop!
Micro needling with exosomes would be a great way to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And another question that is actually I think a hint to what we have on this slide, and we can say as much or as little as possible, but we have a few members who are wondering if we plan to launch any products that could be used by non-medical professionals. So anything that we could share about that, and if not, then we can just say stay tuned.
Well, look, I'll tackle the because I think Kathy and Yoslin, asked derivatives of the question. So, without going too much, and I'm going to bounce it back in a second. What I can tell you is that we're actually working on a direct to consumer luxury product with an A-list celebrity. I can't give you more detail than that. But what I think is really interesting is that I'd love to get some feedback, since we have so many talented, from makeup artists to a lot of people in the beauty space. You guys get so much information on products that you'd love to see. Be great to hear, get some feedback from you guys in terms of, hey, I'd love to see a product with this ingredient or kind of focus for this, because we're really excited, and we've been keeping this close to the vest until we get it further along. But it's always interesting to know from subject matter experts like we have in the audience today in terms of what they'd love to see in a product. But it's coming soon.
Awesome. Well, if anyone has any ideas or feedback of what they would like to see, definitely let us know. I think Kathy has a follow-up question here of, does there need to be a skin channel for exosomes to be effective? Does only topical application work? If you can expand on that.
I mean, the ideal situation is you apply it topically, because especially for skincare, I mean, it's the best approach to actually do it, to get, skin benefits, of course, on it. And using the atomizer, like I said, it's going to go into the skin easier. It's an easier use. It disperses the product a lot easier, and it dries really, really quick that way.
Awesome. Well, if anyone has any questions, feel free. We have about 3 minutes. We'll stay on here, and leave the floor open. And if you can leave that in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and ask, that works too. But I will just say, I want to thank Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Pereyra, and Brian for their time and for sharing all this knowledge. I think, we hear a lot about exosomes. This is what we really needed to understand what it is, the technology, how it looks to receive a service using technology, exosome technology. So I think, even seeing all the questions that have come in at the end, it was really starting to inspire, the questions and learning more. So I want to thank you all for your time, and everyone here, thank you so much for joining. As always, you will hear from me. I'm happy to send this recording to anyone who would like to keep this for their records. And of course, all three experts here are more than happy to contribute to any interviews or explanations for anything further that was spoken about today.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we'll be doing a lot more events like this, and anybody needs any form of, I've given many talks about this nationwide about exosomes, what makes them different, what makes them, unique, especially in the context of ours, how they work. A lot of people ask, of course, about competitors. Ours are designed specifically for skin. They're not from amniotic fluid. They're not from placenta. They're not from platelets. There's a platelet company out there. I think somebody asked a question real quick. Platelet Science. That's platelets. Platelets actually have about 5 or 6 different growth factors. This has over 50 growth factors in there. This has extracellular matrix in there. That stuff does not have extracellular matrix in there. They add other things in there to make it. This is all naturally occurring. The solution that it's suspended in is what makes it neat too. It's a complete amino acid based antioxidant that is completely natural too, that we use commonly when we grow cells.
Awesome. Well, with that, we can go ahead and end the Zoom. Once again, thank you so much to everyone and more to come this year. And feel free to reach out for any additional questions. JuveXO team, thank you so much. And Dr. Pereyra, thank you for your time.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, team.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you
guys.
guys.